All right. So there are guidelines. Everybody agree? Raise your hand if you agree. Thank you. We want to make this, again, as safe as possible for everybody to feel comfortable. So we're going to talk about my top tips. And people usually start their job search off I'm usually with the worst possible thing that you can do. And I'll tell you what that is in a minute. We're going to talk about how do you manage your fears. Anytime we go to do something new, the amygdala, the cave part of our brain jumps in. They want to keep us safe, but you don't need to be safe. You're all grown adults now. So we're going to manage that. We're going to talk about your marketing campaign. Most people don't realize that your resume and LinkedIn profile are your marketing campaign. So we're going to talk about how to run a great marketing campaign, figure out a career path. And again, we're just going to start all this. You're not going to walk out today and say, I'm going to be an astronaut or an accountant, right? Or a nurse. And we're going to talk about networking. How do we get going with that? And by the way, there may be somebody today you can meet in your breakout room. Maybe you'll network with them. This could be a good icebreaker for you. And then we'll talk about what's next. And I have quite a bit of questions that people have said before. As we go along, if you want to give some questions, please feel free to put those in the chat. And Mandy will remind me. And then we'll have a Q&A at the end. And I am going to move fast, so tell me to slow down, but we have a lot of material. So now we're going to focus on, I think mindset is everything. It is everything. How we go into something, and there's lots of ways to improve your mindset, is everything. So the first thing I'm going to start off with is remembering that I've had Pulitzer Prize winners, I have CFOs of multi-million-dollar corporations, I have new grads out of school. Nobody usually goes into a job search going, I got a lot to give. I'm terrific. People should hire me. Those people don't come to me. They're all set. Right. And you can't believe the people I've worked with, and self included. I've got all these credentials and things, and I still doubt myself. So think about that. We want to work with that and focus on your strengths. And we've got a really cool interactive exercise. So remember, there's an inner critic. Learning how to manage that inner critic and put it aside. Mandy's shaking her head. You have experience with this, right, Mandy? Yes, Mandy's a coach too. Learning how to put that inner critic aside and listen to the wise voice within is really important. And who's heard of imposter syndrome? Raise your hand. You could raise it. Yeah. Who's got imposter syndrome? Most of us, right? Yes. So we know how to manage it. It's kind of like if you have low blood sugar, you got to keep your eye on it, right? But you can learn to manage it. There's lots of books and tools for that. So one really good way to hold on to your strength is document big and small successes. People who do this at the end of the day are happier than people who don't. And I even have a friend, we text each other every night with 2 successes a day. They can be small, like Mandy's bonus son getting to a job interview on time, right? Well, that's not small. I'm sorry. That's small. Or jumping on a webinar. This is a big success. Learning, the most important thing you could do about your job hunt is get your mindset in a positive and learn about how to do this. It's just an art and a skill that you can master, like playing the guitar, and it's not as complex as learning another language. So keep those successes. Read your old references from school, bosses, teachers, and counselors. Go back and make a list, not now, but make time to make a list of all the compliments you've gotten in the past 2 weeks. That's going to help start your interview process. And one of my favorite books, has anybody here taken a Strengths Finder? Anybody taken Strengths Finder, the 2.0 by Tom Rath? Who said this? Imposter syndrome. Somebody, is anybody? I'm sorry, there's something in the chat about imposter syndrome. Oh, what is imposter syndrome? Ha, ha, ha. So here I am in my career, very fleshed out. I have written books. I've been on TV. I've had dozens of clients. I've been a director of learning and development. This all comes easy to me. I love it. So I don't value that. If you're usually good at something and you're not paying, you don't ask me to program your computer. Scary times, right? That doesn't come easy to me. That might be something I would think is valuable, and I'd work really hard in it, and that I'd give myself credit for. But no, no, no. We want to honor what you're already doing now. Give yourself credit. If you're naturally wired, John, I bet you've been kind all your life. Am I right? Yeah. You're naturally hardwired for this, and you can learn to be tougher and be a strong but compassionate leader. So think about all these things. This will really do a deep dive and a drill down on discrete strength. And especially if you want to go into sales or have your own business, I highly recommend it. Strengths Finder 2.0 on Amazon. Don't buy the used book. You need the code from that or download it on your Kindle. That would be number one recommendations to do right now. No, don't do it right now. Do it after the webinar. But that's a really good start. Start from your strengths. We're so focused on what we don't do. So speaking of strengths, I want to give everybody just a little minute. You got from Mandy, you got a very long, I hope you didn't print it out, but you got a very long handout. And if you want to just take a minute on your phone or on your computer to pull up page 1. To pull up page 1, you will see a whole bunch of strengths like this. It's right on the top of page 1. Focus on your strengths. We're going to already shift your mindset into a strength-based mindset. And it's fine if you don't have all these. So what we're going to do is we're going to put you in breakout rooms. If you get put into the breakout room and you don't want to be in there, just opt out or don't opt in, and we'll put you in another breakout room. So the breakout room, what you're going to do is we'll start with the person with the shortest hair goes first. So that's not going to be Daphne or Carrie, probably not. Maybe not Mandy, maybe not me, I don't know. But the person with the shortest hair is just going to start, and you can all think about this, with a 2-minute story of something you did well. You planned a trip. It doesn't have to be a workplace skill. You planned a trip. You redid your kitchen. You found something at work that was an error and you reported it. You got comments in school about you did a good job. You got a good grade on something because you studied hard. You're a great cook. You talked about how you had a big party and you made this pasta dish that everybody loved. Something that you do well, a 2-minute story. And while you're talking, so does anybody, Daphne, can I call on you a minute because you're such a great extrovert? Oh, somebody's taken Strengths Finder. Yes. So Daphne, tell me about a time that you were funny or that you entertained people. Hold on, I'm gonna just listen to this. Everybody listen to her strengths. Tell me about a time that you were funny or entertained people, if you don't mind. Is that okay, Daphne?
Yes, I have no idea. So, on my bucket list of things to do in life, it was take a stand-up comedy class. So my daughter and I took that, I think it was either a year or 2 years ago. I don't know. Time goes so quickly. And it was really hard work, but I just followed the directions, right? The first week you have to write some things. And then the second week you have to go to an open mic and say those things. And then we fine-tune them. And then my daughter and I were having a blast because we were helping each other. We were making things funny for each other. And then at the end of the, I don't know, 2 months or something, we did stand up to a full house. And afterward, people just loved it. So my daughter's still doing stand up, but that was a one-time thing for me.
Wonderful. Yay. Wow. We should have Courageous on here. All right. So I'm going to just do this quickly, right? But if I was Daphne's partner, I'd say I'd outline for her, I'd write this down and then give it back to her. She's focused. She was detail oriented. She took ownership. She was motivated. She took initiative. She was independent, right? She was comprehensive. Did you organize? I imagine you organized before you went on stage, right? You were a hard worker. I certainly think you were creative, right? And did you do anything proactive?
Yeah, I had to invite, I invited, I don't know, a lot of people, and I think I had at least 13 people show up.
Wonderful. Okay. So think about that. Think about that, right? Try to find the strengths. And it could, I said courageous. It doesn't have to be on the list. So we all kind of set to do this. The short hair person goes just like Daphne, but she's the long hair person. I called out her strengths, and then you're going to reverse. And Mandy's going to cue you at 2.5 minutes, right? Mandy's going to cue you at 2.5 minutes when you switch. Are there any questions? Put them in the chat. You do not have to go into the room. You do not have to go into the room, but we would appreciate it, and you will get a huge gift by doing so. My top tips. Okay. The number one pet peeve I have is that people go look at job descriptions to decide what they're going to be when they grow up. It doesn't work. Because the job descriptions today, they want you to be an insurance broker, handle all the claims, wash the floors, right? Do project management, things that no possible human being can do all these things. They're just, believe me, I've been a recruiter, right? They're just throwing it out there to see what they can get. So don't be daunted. When you go through the job description, put a green mark, highlight green what you can do easily, yellow, I'm going to have to learn that. And red, I don't have any kind of experience. So if they want somebody who's experienced with 3 years in Scrum and Agile, that's not you. I might pass on that job. Right? But red, if you know Python and C++, and you could learn another language, then that's a yellow. You have that skill set. Right? Mary talked about jumping in and taking over projects. Maybe she doesn't have her PMP in project management, but she has done project management. So evaluate it like that. And we're going to use a key elements wish list later to help you vet your possible career path. So we just talked about clarity on strengths and skills. That's the most important thing. And we're going to tell you how to put that on your resume or LinkedIn profile. And that's huge. We're going to help you do that. There was somebody that was referred to me through Vesta many, many years ago. He'd been out of work for 2 years. This is before I was working with Gary. We had 2 sessions. We changed his resume. After 2 years, he got hired like that. I've had many, many people. That resume is like your marketing campaign. And if you're selling shampoo and you can't tell me what it's going to do for my hair and what the employer wants, it's not going to help you get hired. And it's very hard for people to speak about their strengths, but we'll help you. So your number one online tool is LinkedIn. And people are always worried, well, what if I have 2 job paths? We'll talk about that. Get a free account. It's good for 1 year. As I mentioned before, fantastic learning opportunities on LinkedIn. And they even have a class on how to use LinkedIn. When you use this, you can, if you have LinkedIn Premium, you can talk to your hiring manager or the recruiter beforehand. You have InMail. You can see who you're competing against. So I had one client, a programmer, 160 people had already applied for that job. This person was newly out of school. And we saw that most of them had master's degrees, and it was for 3 years. The person wasn't qualified. But you can gain so much from having that LinkedIn profile. And now AI is there. It's not always accurate, but AI is there to help you see, do I have the skills for this job? It's a great feature. All right. Also, LinkedIn is a phenomenal way to network. Join groups that are in your affinity. Join groups that are part of what you want to do. I know we have somebody here that's very active in a UX community. People share different ideas. I'm in an HR community. This is how I learn about things. And eventually, if you see somebody who's participating a lot, who looks like a leader in their field, if you have LinkedIn, you can use the InMail feature and ask them questions. Now, we're very fortunate here in Massachusetts to have a one-stop career center. Many of you, I know people in North Carolina, it's not as robust. It's not as robust in some of the Midwest states. California, you have some really good ones, but you can get free resume writing. There's networking classes, there's interviewing, you can meet people here. Some of the states have a job bank for you. And there are supportive people. Gary and I are more of a Cadillac service, right? We're going to shop everything to you. You have to go and find the classes, but they're very helpful and they're free. This is your tax dollars at work. Also, local libraries can be very helpful with job resources, and even many of them will help you with your resume and review your resume and help you learn technology as well. The state may also, if you've been unemployed for a while, the state may offer to pay for training for you. If there is a training. Carrie, you're shaking your head. Have you ever done that, or you just know that is possible, right? Yeah. So there's state training available for you, which is excellent. So these are free resources. Use them wisely. Great. Okay. So now we're going to talk about fear. And again, that goes back to mindset. I always like to think of fear as the acronym for fantasized experiences appearing real, right? Again, the cave person part of our brain lies to us. It's trying to protect us, like it was trying to tell you don't run across the street, or don't throw balls at your little sister, right? Or don't cheat on your test. Although some of you, I know you cheated on your test, but no, just kidding. And that's fine. I'm just teasing. But think about that. We want to control that fear, which is false usually. We want to control that fear. All of you, if you're here today, it means you're thinking about your career. You can use technology, right? And you just looked at your strengths. So don't let that ego put you down. Don't let that fear paralyze you, because it can often do it. So here's something we're going to do. I'm going to coach all of you through this. So if you're distracted, if somebody's in the room, if whatever, try to pay attention, and you can write this down or you could do it with yourself. Okay? So think of one big fear. If it's going back, somebody wrote me, how am I going to get a job? I've been out of the workforce for 20 years. That's a fear. Or I don't know where to start on my LinkedIn profile, or nobody's going to follow me on LinkedIn. By the way, you don't need to be followed to get a job. So think about one big fear about this whole career piece. Somebody said, I have too many jobs from the 90s. You only need 10 to 13 years in your history. So some of these are just knowledge, okay? But think of your fears, and I want to ask you a question. Are they really true? Is it really true? So who would like to put in the chat one fear they might have? Who's got a fear that you can't succeed? Okay.
I would just add, for me personally, it's Aisling here speaking. I feel one of my fears is because I have been at home as a stay-at-home mom for 10 years, I feel now going back into the workplace, people will see me as, old, just out of touch. How can I compete with these like 20 somethings who are all so tech savvy and amazing with the LinkedIn and Facebook? And, so that's one of my fears, that like, I just, that I won't be appraised favorably in relation to people much younger than me.
That's a great concern. It could be a fear, but Aisling, are you a fast learner?
Yes, I would consider myself a quick learner, very diligent and dedicated, a little bit type A when I get my mind onto something.
Well, the workforce likes a type A, as long as you don't boss many people around. All right.
Right.
So let's think this through for yourself. All right. And it is a real concern. But if you can learn and you can upskill, and by the way, we have an internship program where we can place you in and you work for free, by the way, on top of your regular job. But for 5 to 7 hours a week, we place people in startups, we place them in nonprofits, we place them with executives. So we can get you that experience in a soft landing. All right, so everybody think of your fears. Aisling, thank you for being brave and sharing that, all right? Do you have any evidence? Do you know anybody who's stayed home and gone back and been successful in the workforce?
I mean, I don't know anyone personally, but, you know, being rational and being sensible, I must believe that it happens all the time if the person is, like you said earlier, looking at this situation with the proper mindset and being positive and learning about their skills, and, you know, is aware of their strengths. So I do believe it's possible, but, you know, that inner critic inside is saying, oh, but not for you. You know, this is going to be tricky
yes.
for you.
Go to mom.com and look at all the women on there that have gone back, and men that, well, there's not men, but look at all the people who have gone back to school. So I'm hearing she has a concern, but her fear isn't true and she can't prove it. I've got tons of clients you could talk to who are moms, stay-at-home moms and dads who have gone back and been successful. Okay, so think, is your fear really true? I'm not going to have a good LinkedIn. I'm going to flood the interview with practice and hard work. You can get through that. And if you don't have a lot of hard evidence, Aisling, let go of that fear. Everybody here, let go of your fear. Keep that in mind. My fear is false. I can go on LinkedIn and learn. I can network with people. I can talk to people. Yes, you might want to get a little help with that.
I'm here to interject something here.
Please, Gary.
So a large part of the audience, I'm sure, have been stay-at-home parents, and they've been out of the workforce in the traditional sense for many years, like Aisling. One of the things we would do is talk to you about your experience during the last 20 years. You know, we're involved in community service. We're involved in fundraising with schools, any projects, any serious hobbies, and trying to identify those skills that are transferable into a new position, into the workforce, so that you want to bridge the gap as much as possible and find the value in how you spent those 20 years. That's one example.
Excellent. Thank you, Gary. Yeah. So again, remember, this is not true. My fear is not true. And I can learn and I can stretch and I can grow. Right? I worked with 3 people once in the same 2 months that were all fired, and we got them jobs. Fired. So it is possible. It's harder today. Think about this. It's economic winter. Right? Going out looking for a job today is like hunting for berries in the winter. It's harder. It's not about you. The best berry hunter in the world is not going to find a lot of berries in winter. So don't make it about you. We will help you figure out how to find those berries in the winter. I actually look for jobs. I go online and look for jobs for people because I've done this for so long and I kind of can match people up. So where there's a will, there's a way. So let's roll over into your marketing. Mandy, do I have any questions I want to? Is there grandma.com? And if you don't keep up with the same technology, we have many technologists on the call who will teach you. No, YouTube, anything you want. LinkedIn and YouTube has great. If you go to your library and if you're a senior, your senior center, they will all teach you in a very nice and pleasant way about technology. There's many ways to learn about it. And yes, you do. If you want a really good, successful job today, you have to learn it. But there are many, many ways to learn it. Okay, so let's roll on to your profile. We want what's called a 30-second view. Everybody, and forget objectives. They are no longer out. I want to find a position as a claims adjuster in an insurance company. No more. We want to know who you are. Recruiters are busy. They're busier than ever. So are hiring managers. All these, by the way, all the layoffs we just saw, the macroeconomic people I talked to have said that companies are going to realize they laid off too many people that got scared. And come August, we're going to see a bigger bump in hiring. We just, by the way, added over 200,000 people last month. And And our administration, whether you're politics or not, is working very hard to do that. So use your state and federal supports. So this is what it's going to look like. I look at a minute at this person and I know who they are and I know what their skills are. And they even highlighted this, right, to show. So I have a good encapsulation of who this person is. And there is in your handout, there's information to build this, right? Okay, skills are key. Now we're just doing, please, I'm sorry, I know we have non-techie people, but it's important. Think about those strengths though, right? Can you run reports in a certain piece, right? Are you highly organized? What do you know how to do? Do you understand project management? What are the classes you've taken? And again, in the handout, there are ways to pull these skills out. So you want your profile and you want your skills. And the good news is if you don't have a degree in what you were originally going for, it doesn't matter as much. And if you've had 2 years, oh my God, how many years have we spent hiding people's gaps? If you've had 2 years off during COVID, nobody's going to care anymore. So those are the advantages of right now. I'm going to turn it over to Gary. Oh, first, I'm sorry. It's significant accomplishments. Now, this is scary. This is a big, a lot of accomplishments, but you want significant accomplishments. And Mary talked about diving in, taking initiative, right, for a project and problem solving it till the end. That's a significant accomplishment. And if you have any Six Sigma experience, or if you just understand, if I get paid $80,000 a year and you do something that saves 10 hours of my time, it's $40 an hour, you saved $8,000. This is very hard to quantify. This is usually where Gary and I get involved, right? But you can think about how much time and energy did you save? And we have a whole list in your handout of what employers want to see. Now I'm going to turn it over to Gary. And Mandy, can you see Gary's face? We can't see. Is he on camera? Great. Okay.
Hi. Okay, so PAR statements or SAR statements. These are basically short, concise bullet points that you want to develop that have a lot of impact in your resume. It describes your abilities and the true value that you offer to an employer in a powerful way that showcases your skills and qualifications. So breaking this down, if you look at project or situation or scenario, the P stands for problem, a project, an opportunity, a situation that you faced that needed attention, and there was an opportunity to help the company either save money or improve a process, for example. Then the action is actually an action verb, which we ideally want to take from the job posting. You want to match up these bullet points to illustrate that you have the experience or the credentials or the requirements that they're looking for. So you take an example from the job posting. We might talk about communications, or might talk about project management, and you try to develop an illustration that shows that you were successful. And then the result is the challenge in some ways. Some jobs are easy to measure the metrics than others, but most jobs have an impact on a company in terms of improving their performance, reducing costs, retaining customers, taking advantage of a new opportunity. It could be you negotiated contracts, you did something to improve a process, which cut down on a cycle to bring a product to market. You could have identified inefficiencies. There's a lots of different ways to approach the impact that you have on a company and illustrate the experience, the skill set, and the accomplishments that you have in your background and how they match up to a potential employer to show the value that you can bring. So kind of concluding with the approach is you want to identify a task, a project, a situation that you faced. You want to develop a strong action verb, and you want to ideally have it some type of a measurement of the impact that you had on whether it's increasing revenue, decreasing costs, improving efficiency, introducing a new policy, retaining a customer, attracting new customers, and that kind of sums up. If you look at the top of the slide, you can see different ways to think about your impact. And this is one of the areas where people really discover their value when we're working with them. They really get to view and understand the impact that they have in a much different light.
Thank you, Gary. And this is probably the most daunting part of the resume writing process, honestly. Honestly, it's so hard to do the results, and especially if you're a lawyer or working in an environment where you really don't think you can measure. Like I just had a researcher who thought, oh, none of what I've done, doesn't even happen for 2 years. Well, I said, what happened? He said, oh, did all this. So we will pull this out of you. This is very hard to do. Very, very hard to do. Don't go in your head about all this. We have a whole thing on your worksheet that will show you examples too of this. There's a ton of that. Okay. I want to do this quickly and see if we could do it in just a couple. Actually, I'm going to leave this. I'm sorry. I'm going to leave this because I do have other things. So just so you know, you have a checklist. And if you look at the handout, it's 8,753 pages long. That's because we have this checklist for you. I thought we would do it for your managers, but what you're going to see is this whole long checklist of managers and colleagues in the beginning, the qualities that you want. There's also a job activities part. There's also special considerations and environment. This is going to help you. So let's say, managers and colleagues are so important. You're going to look at the list, but you're also going to think of, the managers you've been with. Usually in the manager section, the top 2 are willing to let me do things my own way as long as results are achieved. And also, again, giving me support and guidance, giving me feedback. So what you will do after the workshop, I'm sorry we didn't have time, is go back and check all these off. Then at the end, you're going to have this list of 5. You're going to write your top 5 there. And that's going to be your visioning and vetting tool for the kind of manager you want, the kind of job activities, the environment. Keep this handy because you really, today, it's hard to get a job, but you don't want to go into a job where you're not going to succeed. So know where you're going. This is not going to tell you you're going to be an astronaut or a nurse, right? Or a firefighter. But it is going to tell you the work activities you want to do. So you'll have 2 hypotheses. Research those hypotheses to see which one is right for you. All right, we're going to go into networking really quickly. Volunteer. I used to be coordinator of volunteers at my local university. That's a really good place. Also, sports teams. I have one guy, he got more jobs to his soccer team than anything else. Get yourself involved in communities. And you can usually approach charities and ask, we'll help you find internships too, but you can usually, if you've been out of the workforce, approach charities. They're always looking for volunteers. Approach small businesses for that. I don't know, Mandy, I don't know if Vesta would want some volunteers, right? But we will help you. And look at Mandy saying yes, maybe she needs some, office help or people to call people or something like that. You have questions in the informational interview. People like to connect. Is Jim Schaefer on the call here? Jim, are you on the call? Well, I was going to have Jim tell you. Jim and I are connectors. We love to matchmake people, right? We will help you find people for informational interviews. But if you find people that are chatty, Mandy's saying the same thing. If we're chatty and we're outgoing, and we're an extrovert, we like to talk to you. You want to talk to me about my job? Oh, I'm happy to do that. So get rid of that fear. You can go through LinkedIn. Again, look at who the subject matter experts are. Ask questions in LinkedIn. And then again, if you see somebody talking about it, say, wow, your job looks great. Do you mind? Do not ask them for coffee. Do not ask them to dinner. They won't go. 15 minutes over a phone call. Do you have time for that? And never ask for a job. Find connectors who will take you to people who can tell you about jobs. And use your resume as a tool for advice. You should have lots of people looking at your resume, including, I mean, I hate to tell you, if you're going to spend a dime, spend it on a professional resume writer. And there's programs too, but that's the best money you can spend besides LinkedIn. Be quick, be brief, be brilliant, and be gone. Let them speak a lot. This is where you bring your par stories, right? You know, this is what I love to do. You know, where do you think I could do that? And always send a follow-up letter. Always send a follow-up thank you. That will demarcate you from the other people. All right, what's next? I know we're traveling down into the line here. So we have some programs for you. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but we have a very low cost program that's online where you can add in, it's only $199. You can add in, if you like, group coaching or individual coaching. It is designed for women. If you are a man and you want to take it, it's soup to nuts. It's how to build yourself up. It's a lot of what we discovered today, but you are going to come out with a more in-depth career path, and you'll be clear about your strengths, and you will silence that inner critic. We have a therapist doing some exercises with you, deep breathing to get ready for your interviews. We have interview videos. If you are a male and you want to sign up for this package, we will create a group coaching. Just the first part is geared more towards women, but we'll put the men in a group coaching and do something that's parallel to that. Gary and I are going to give you free LinkedIn profile and resumes. And honestly, if you just have one question for me, I'd rather not give you a 45-minute preview of what we do. If you have one question, you have our emails, right? You can go to the website, SuzanneBlake.com. You can ask us questions. But if you're serious and you want to find out more about what a 3-month package would do, we'd love to give you more information. And go to my LinkedIn profile. I'm constantly giving free advice. I want people to get this information. It's really important to me that I help people along this journey because it is so daunting now. But the good news is there's lots of free help. There's lots of people who want to support you. Don't think you're bothering people and taking their time. And by the way, one really important thing, it is taking over 2 weeks for people to get back to you if you're asking for an informational interview. Mandy's saying that. People are ghosting people. People ghost me. They pay me money and then they don't show up. Everybody's been serious. I got clients who ghost me. I've got big amounts of cash there, right? And they're not using it. So don't take it personally. Don't take anything personally in the job hunt. Except if you show up late and they say they can't, by the way, they can't tell you why they didn't hire you. But if you see frowny faces because you're late, pay attention to that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope you got a lot of valuable information, and we wish you the best of luck.
Yes, and let us know how we can support you. And thank you, Mandy and Vesta. And by the way, I don't know if you are familiar with this, but if you're getting a divorce, I wish we had Vesta around. They are so supportive and offer so much, again, free help and advice. So support yourself personally and professionally if you're going through that big transition.